I used to believe that family meant unconditional love, that no matter what happened, your parents would always be there for you. I learned the hard way that some families don't work like that. For as long as I can remember, I was nothing more than a shadow in my own home. My parents had my younger brother Mike when I was 6, and from that moment on, I stopped existing to them. Mike wasn't sick. He wasn't special except in my mother's eyes. He was her golden child, her entire world. And I was just there. It didn't matter what I did. Good grades, competitions, achievements. Nothing was ever enough to make them see me. Meanwhile, Mike could do the bare minimum and be treated like royalty. If he wanted something, he got it. If he messed up, it was my fault. If I ever outshined him, I was punished. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the final betrayal. The day my parents chose my brother over me, on my wedding day, my father, though not as blind as my mother, was too weak to stand up for me. He just let it happen. The only person who truly cared for me was my grandfather. He always told me I reminded him of my grandmother, the love of his life. But he lived across the country, so I rarely got to see him. Mike, of course, loved the attention. He thrived on it. He made my life hell just because he could. He stole from me, lied about me, and framed me for things he did. And my mother? She always took his side. When I graduated high school, my parents told me my college fund had been spent on emergency expenses. Years later, I found out the truth. They used it to buy Mike a house and a car. I had to put myself through college, with scholarships and part-time jobs. And in that struggle, I found something wonderful. Lucas, the man who would later become my husband. He was my best friend first, my biggest supporter. For the first time in my life, I felt seen. A year ago, Lucas proposed. It was the happiest moment of my life, but when I told my parents, their reaction was, "Nothing. That's nice." That was it. No excitement, no questions, no offers to help plan, nothing. Lucas, ever the optimist, convinced me to invite them anyway. Maybe, just maybe, they'd show up for this. Maybe for once, I could be important to them. I tried to talk about the wedding every time I visited, hoping for some acknowledgement. But every time, my mother would interrupt me to gush about Mike's latest accomplishment. She never listened. She never cared. One day, I finally asked outright, "Mom, are you coming?" "Oh, sweetie, we'd love to. But it's Mike's last football game of the season. You understand, right?" That was it. The final straw. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just smiled and said, "That's okay." I didn't tell them it was my wedding. I let them think it was just another event. And then I got married without them. The wedding was perfect. Small, elegant, and filled with people who actually loved me. My grandfather gave me away. As I walked down the aisle, he whispered, "You're free now, kiddo." It was the happiest day of my life. And then, reality hit. While Lucas and I were on our honeymoon, my phone exploded with messages. My aunt had posted pictures of the wedding online, and people started asking why my parents weren't there. Then my grandfather, bless his soul, showed up at my parents' house and tore into them. He humiliated my father so badly that for the first time in his life my dad finally snapped. He threatened to divorce my mother if she didn't make things right. And just like that, the perfect little world they built around Mike started to crumble. My mother started bombarding my phone with messages, first insults, then guilt trips, then desperate pleas for forgiveness. So I agreed to meet them one last time. When I arrived, my father looked miserable. My mother looked embarrassed. Not sorry. And Mike? He looked annoyed. I laid everything out. Years of neglect, the lies, the favoritism. And when I asked, "Why?" my mother simply shrugged. "I guess I just didn't like you." That was it. No regret, no apology. Just a cold, simple truth. Then Mike, laughing, admitted he had torn up my wedding invitation and deleted my texts. And the football game? A lie. They weren't at a game. They were at Disneyland. I felt something inside me break. Years of pain, anger, betrayal, everything boiled over. I looked my father in the eye and called him a coward. I told Mike he was nothing more than a parasite, a spoiled man-child who would never accomplish anything. And my mother? You're not even worth hating. Then I left, and I never looked back. Since then, I've cut off all contact. I blocked them, changed my number, and even moved without telling them my address. My father sent me a long, pathetic message blaming my mother for everything. I blocked him too. But you know what? I don't feel empty. I don't feel lost. I feel free. My grandfather moved in with Lucas and me for a while. He's the only family I need, and for the first time in my life, I'm happy. To anyone out there struggling with toxic family, you don't owe them anything. Blood doesn't make a family, love does, and I finally found mine. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.